Hey everybody! Thanks so much for 50 subs. For celebration, I'm doing a special what if, and that is, what if the SilkWings took over the continents in the future? This is a POV of the SilkWing Princess Horizon and the Skywing Prisoner Pepper. I adore these two characters and I love their designs. This is my first time doing a writing what if. I have wrote other stuff. I wrote a whole Warriors book, but so let's get into it. Princess? Horizon turned her head from the scroll she was reading. She recognized the voice of the Hivewing servant. It's hard not to feel awkward around Hivewings, she thought, but I try to be nice to them, unlike Mother. A flash of the Silkwing Queen ran through her head, amber eyes menacing. I'm her only heir, and she expects me to become powerful like her, hate other tribes, be royal and powerful. But Horizon didn't know she wanted that. Yes, she called, her voice smooth and sweet. A Hivewing entered the room, his claws shaking. He had a wooden clipboard in his talons and copper glasses that reflected his amber scales. His eyes glittered with fear. Horizon felt a swell of compassion and pity. At the beginning of the Silk Wars, once the Silkwings obviously began winning every battle, the Hivewings gave themselves up and offered to become our servants. Queen Imperial probably thought it was poetic justice, or even amusing, since a few thousand years ago it was the other way around. But I would never be rude to them, she thought fiercely. I probably should know his name. Her Majesty has asked to see you, the Hivewing bowed, making sure none of his scrolls fell. Horizon gave him a nod, a smile on her face. Of course. And you don't need to be scared. She turned back to her desk, scattered with books and leftover treasure. Yes, Your Majesty, the Hivewing bowed and skittered out of the room. Horizon gave a short huff and gazed at her reflection in the mirror before turning to leave her room. It was too much like the other castle rooms, despite the pink silks, banners, and treasure. Same marble walls and polished stone floors. It was almost suffocating. Horizon gazed across the room. Silkwings had many palaces over the two continents, about 2 in Pentala and 3 in Pyria. Horizon had been born in the Sky Palace, once the Skywing one, but it changed to fit Silkwings. I live a perfect life, she thought with a sigh as she hurried down a hall to the nearest exit. Thousands of dragons would love to be me. But her mind flashed again to her mother, her dark purple scales, flickering amber eyes filled with expectation, large palaces, burning flashes of glowing silk, and large prison towers high in the sky, with dragons the color of rust and amber. Horizon shook her head, her antennae twitching. She adjusted some silks around her shoulders, turning around a curb and almost breaking a vase. She changed to a sprint and leaped off a balcony into the open sky. When Horizon was in the sky, the pine trees below, the welcoming warm sun, the fresh breeze, she almost forgot about all her problems. Being the only Silkwing heir, at least yet, Queen Imperial bearing her down with rules. The amount of the deaths Silkwings had done to prove that they weren't weak. At least that long-ago animus enchantment worked, she thought as she swooped down to a lower wind current. Then not all the tribes had to die. She felt a lurch of surprising guilt in her stomach. The last 100 of every tribe was cruel. Each tribe had their own prison, large and pleasant enough, with trees and food, but it was like a display cell for them. Silkwings came to look at the strange other dragons that once ruled the continent. The royals of the tribes were placed in a tall pillar by the nearest Silkwing palace. Every part of this hand was woven by Queen Imperial herself. She has made mistakes, but she's my mother. I couldn't. No. She ignored the guilt. She was the Silkwing princess. No sympathy for other tribes who had been mocking Silkwings for millennia. Too weak, pacifist, stupid. Well, we showed them when the war came. Shaking her thoughts and last trace of worry and guilt, she flew to the Sky Palace throne room, where Skywings had previously lived 10 years ago. The stone pillars reached toward the vast sky. The mountains around them looked like jutting dragon teeth. A few dragons, Silkwings, flew to the arena nearby, but for art shows and competitions. The palace was giant, the largest of them. Horizon mostly stayed here, oversee of the castle. Queen Imperial preferred Pantala in the original Silkwing palace. Horizon tilted her wings to fly down to the large center of the palace, golden light glowing from flame silk lanterns, and straight into the throne room. It was painted with gold and white marble. Horizon felt blinded by the light. The throne was the same one as the SilkWings originally had, carved to look like clouds. On top of it, in all majestic glory, was Queen Imperial herself. Her scales were a dark magenta, with hints of pink and gold. Her antennae curled gracefully in the air. Her eyes were a dark amber, flickering with pleasure. She wore white and gold silks around her waist, connected with a butterfly brooch on her back. She wore a golden crown carved into jagged spires. A hint of a smile curled at the corner of her mouth. "Ah, Princess Horizon," she said in a voice like poisonous honey. Your Majesty," Horizon gave a short curtsy, making sure she didn't trip. Imperial gave her an approving nod, and beckoned her daughter to sit beside her, on a lower throne, of course. "I believe everything has gone well." She waved her talons gracefully, and the 6 SilkWing guards left the throne room. "Oh, perfect," she said, her voice sounding like a nervous bird. "The Sky Palace is one of my favorites," Queen Imperial said, changing the subject, gazing outside at the blue sky, white clouds floating on an autumn breeze. "But of course nothing can compare it to Pantala. The poison jungle has imposed a threat for ages, but the forest and savannah are beyond—" "Mother?" Horizon accidentally interrupted. Queen Imperial gave her a sharp look, eyes narrowing. "Oh, my apologies. I meant your highness." Horizon stuttered, giving another bow in apology. Imperial doesn't even want to be called mother, she thought, looking at her talons. She wants the royal title, even from her own daughter. Queen Imperial's eyes softened. She looked away from her daughter. "It feels weird to be called that. I hope you understand." Horizon nodded. "Of course. You see, ever since your father died," her voice cracked sharply, "I haven't felt like a mother to any dragonettes. I only have you as my heir, 3 brothers who oversee the Over Palaces, and one other sister who died in the war." Her voice stayed the same, smooth as oceans. "And the one brother who lived in the Silk Palace." "Yes, it's good to have the SilkWing power balanced." She hesitated for a moment. Horizon stuttered, looking for any changes in her mother's gaze. She doesn't talk about family enough. She never gets soft when speaking. "What is it, Horizon?" "Who is father?" "A brilliant, smart dragon." The Queen gave a rare smile, eyes drifting to her daughter. "He always had time for me, even when he was serving in the military. He... Her voice hardened like stone, and her claws dug into the throne. "He died, murdered by SilkWings once they knew he was king. They thought they could show I was weak by killing my loved ones." "Yes, that was horrible, but did they all deserve to die?" She dared to speak. Queen Imperial's eyes burned with rage, and she sat up, glaring at her daughter with shock and fury. "The dragons who murdered your own father considered SilkWings weak. Every tribe did. They only care about who is strong. So I showed them. Our acid wings are the most powerful on the continents." Her wings flared dramatically. "They make sure no one dies anymore. Only our enemies." Horizon opened her mouth to speak, but Imperial continued either way. "They deserve their fates. Every one of them." "Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak out like that." Horizon bowed her head. "They are dangerous and cruel. I had to grow up with a father because of them." She removed the mushy feeling in her heart to something harder, like fury, like her mother would. But nothing came. In fact, Imperial's eyes gleamed. She turned to a small stone table beside her, picked up a scroll with a red ribbon around it. It looked like it had gotten a little burnt. Flame silk doesn't burn like that. Horizon watched as her mother unwrapped it and passed it to her. It read, "Queen Imperial of the SilkWings. You probably know this by now. I mean, you did it, but the presents for the SkyWings aren't very great. I mean, the ones for normal SkyWings are great, so I've heard, with the trees and the rocks, but for the royal, it's less nice. We're trapped in bars all day with no flying. It's also getting very squashed since Poppy's getting older. Do you think you could, change it to make it better? Maybe let us stretch our wings for a while longer? Nicer meals and more space? We completely understand since you are the queen, but couldn't it be a little nicer for your... Sincerely, Peppered of the SilkWings." Horizon fidgeted with the scroll in her hands. Peppered. The name sounded familiar. The letter mentioned the royals, the last of the royal SilkWing blood, who were put in tall prisons in the sky where everyone could see them. It was, in a way, cruel, but just since they had killed so many SilkWings in the war. My own father. But How old is this dragon? She looked at the small charcoal worlds again. 6 years? My age? He wasn't alive during the war. Horizon gave the scroll to Imperial. The Skywing Queen was his own relative, the one who gave the command to kill my father, the one who allowed for SilkWings to be called mocked and called weak. See, hissed the Silkwing Queen, still furious despite her apology. They killed your own father, and now they want better living conditions. She spun a small piece of silk in the air, the color of soft amber. It glowed in the throne room, more than the coming sunlight. She lifted the silk and burned the letter. Horizon watched with blank eyes as it shriveled into ash, the color of night wings. That solved that problem. I no longer have to visit with that anymore. She clapped her talons in a satisfied manner. Now, I want to hear all about what has happened around the palace while I've been gone, Horizon. Horizon shook her head to shake the pity thoughts from her head. Of course, Your Majesty. Imperial smiled. Call me Mother. Hey, get up! A voice growled from nearby. Peppered! Peppered peeked one eye open and immediately regretted it. It felt like the only place he could escape his reality was in his dreams. In his dreams, he was flying in a crisp, open blue sky, wind against the scales, fresh, clean air, the smudges of white clouds in the distance, the towering stone mountains below, dappled with dark green like a painting. Peppered lived that way, only once when he was 3. Then the Silkwings killed all the Skywings, except for the last 100, one of them being Peppered. Sometimes in my nightmares, I can hear the screams from the fallen soldiers. There used to be thousands of Skywings, until they had all been brutally murdered. Silkwings. Peppered looked outside from the sky-high cell. Below them were the buildings of Silkwing homes, seemingly peaceful butterfly dragons, until they killed the entire world. Excuse me, Peppered, are you awake? A voice said from behind him. He turned his head. Yeah? Mars? If only we could still live in a world like 100 years ago. I've seen how desperate Mars is for a life below. Mars was sitting behind a tangerine, sleeping Skywing. His scales were the color of rust, his amber eyes losing the glow they had before the war. Just like all the Skywing prisoners, he had gold chains around his neck, ankles, and wings. There are Silkwings coming this way, Mars hissed, turning back to look outside of the cell. Their cell was placed on a pillar in the sky. The bars separated from getting out, of course. The cell had all royal prisoners combined and had enough space for about 10 dragons. All inside were royal, since they had gold chains, and the most royal, possibly queen, was Daybreak, the youngest heir at the start of the war. She was about 15 now. No duh, Silkwings always come this way, said Ernie. She raised her tone in a mocking way. Let's go look at the freaky, red, grumpy dragons. Anybody would be grumpy in here, growled Archer, flicking his orange wings. No, said Mars, turning around. They look important. They have silver armor and spears. There was a pause following this. Pepper tried to stop his shaking tail. When guards came, that normally meant bad news. Maybe an egg hatched in the normal Skywings. Maybe 3. Maybe the guards are coming to kill some of us. Pepper prayed to the sky gods that this was wrong. Maybe they were just passing by, not planning to brutally murder us like they did our ancestors. And we have gold armor, said a voice breaking the silence. A few chuckles followed this, but not out of humor. They sounded forced. I don't care if I die, said Daybreak, turning the humor back to silence. Her voice spoke with a rumble, and her dark amber eyes kept constantly moving. Pepper believed she was getting flashbacks from the war. She was always growling when she slept, or whimpering, which was strange for Daybreak. You can't, said Poppy, her wings drooping. Poppy was the youngest princess, only a few years old. I don't want to be queen. Daybreak sighed, but comforted the young red princess. I know, but I've lived longer than any of my sisters. Imperial knows the threat I pose with royal blood in the Skywings. She'll kill us all, then there'll be no royal Skywings. Pepper gulped. How somber. Would they really kill all the Skywing royals just to keep power? Pepper thought about the letter he sent, the hope it gave him. Pepper hoped that it gave the others hope too. We need more light in this drafty place. Hope for a better life, perhaps. At that moment, 2 burly Silkwings came up to their cell, their silver armor reflecting the midday sun. One was the color of dark purple and blue, the other a light crimson with flecks of orange. If it didn't have 4 wings and an antennae, Peppered could mistake them for a skywing. "Which one of you is named Peppered?" inquired one of the guards, their voice with a hint of threat. "Who's going to make us, SilkWing?" growled Thunder, letting steam rise from his snout. The blue and purple SilkWing rolled his eyes. "Skywings, always stubborn and stupid." His sharp aquamarine eyes turned to Pepper. You look like Peppered, even if you're not. We're taking you anyway." Pepper looked at the other Skywings, he'd grown up for his whole life. Thunder looked furious. Daybreak looked like she wished she could make Peppered sit with the force of her eyes. "Maybe the Queen got my letter!" The sudden thought boosted his strength. "Maybe everything will be better." "I am Peppered." He turned toward the guard. "3 moons, hurry up!" The Crimson Guard groaned, getting a key from a strap on his leg and unlocking the door. "Princess Horizon doesn't have all day." Princess Horizon? Peppered had heard about her. The only heir to the Silkwing throne, probably self-absorbed like the rest of her tribe. The Silkwing Guard opened the cell and pulled Peppered out. The golden chains around Pepper's neck felt heavy as he looked down and around at the sky. If only he could be free. Opening his wings enough to glide, he glided with the 2 Silkwings on his side, pulling him upward. They were strong. After a short flight to the palace and a short walk, they arrived into a large room. Magenta silks hung from the ceiling. Golden lanterns were too soft of a glow to be fire. The blue glass from the lanterns gave reflective patterns across the floor. In the center of it all was a bed of pillows was a Silkwing. Peppered expected her to be scars, wild eyes, and an overly sassy aura. But Peppered could see it in the way her tail was wrapped close. Her green eyes widened with surprise when he came. Her muted green-blue scales, pink and white. It was beautiful. But she was a Silkwing princess, Peppered thought as he was pushed into a bow. Her mother murdered my entire tribe. I can't be calling her beautiful and kind when I don't even know who she is. "Peppered, I presume?" Her voice was soft like clouds in the sky. "Yes, Princess Horizon." "Oh, I guess Prince then." Her eyes landed on his golden chains. "Prince Peppered." Peppered didn't say anything. The princess sighed. "Guards, you may leave." As the claws walked away, Peppered cleared his throat. "If this is about the letter, I can explain." "No need to," she interrupted, her tail flicking. If she wasn't a princess with an evil mother, he would have growled at her. "The Queen has dismissed your needs. At least you're alive. Be grateful." "What?" Peppered burst out, eyes wide. "We live a horrible life, wrapped in chains, little food, no space, and no air." His words hung on air. "No flying? That's what Skywings do. And you tell me to be grateful?" A hiss slipped into his words. Horizon narrowed her eyes. "You killed my mother, my sister, my entire tribe, and you tell me to be grateful?" "Well, you killed my father." Her voice was harsh like stone, calling Silkwings weak and pathetic for centuries. "But nobody saw it coming. Be grateful that you're alive and not them." "I could say the same thing to you," Peppered snarled. He was so angry. He wished he could set the moons on fire. He had wanted peace for a better life, but now he was being scolded like a dragonette. "I won't let her walk all over me." Horizon flared her wings, and Tenny curled over her head. "Guards, get him out of my sight. He has made his motivations clear." And with those words, Peppered was pulled back to his caged misery. "Your Majesties." A Hivewing entered the room with the scroll. Queen Imperial snatched it from his claws and opened it, sipping tea while she read. Horizon added a bit of sugar in her own. The warm herbal scent always made her feel better. Peppered, the thought called in her head. His orange scales, flecked with golden, light brown, light orange, his amber eyes. Horizon would have called him handsome if he wasn't a Skywing, part of the tribe that murdered her father. She tried to harden the guilt and worry inside to make him angry. It had worked a little when Peppered came. Crash! Imperial's teacup fell to the ground, china glass falling across the marble floor. The Queen was gazing at the scroll. Her eyes flickered with almost pleasure. Horizon had seen that look before, and it was never good. "Your Highness?" Horizon went over and picked up the broken teacup. A sharp edge cut her hand with a wince. I have good news, daughter. Imperial flicked her tail, watching Horizon pick up the broken glass, not doing anything to help. Horizon picked up the spill with a napkin. There's a new skywing egg. Her teeth gleamed into a smile. Now there are 101 skywings. So someone has to die. Probably a royal. A sickening feeling filled her stomach. Her wings suddenly felt heavy. More murder. I've thought about this. Imperial arranged the gold and jade silks around her. And I've made a decision. Probably Daybreak, the oldest skywing heir. Horizon prepared herself to hear. Peppered. Horizon gasped, her antennae curling outward in surprise. She could hear her own heart beating faster and faster. Why was she so upset? He was the skywing. She should be pleased. But yet his soft smile, the way he gazed at everything, even herself, in wonder, it made her heart ache. Why are you so surprised? Imperial watched her reaction with slitted eyes. I've heard about your little meeting with him. The guards listened and told me everything. The way he insulted you, our tribe. He deserves to die. It'll make an example to all the other tribes and skywings that you don't make peace with SilkWings. We used to, Horizon thought, blood was still roaring in her ears. We used to live in Pantala, weaving tapestries, making art, writing stories. But then the acid wings were born, and the world had completely changed. Does he really? Stop! The queen sat up, her wings flared, her eyes glowed with disappointment. Stop questioning me, Horizon. You may be a princess, but you will never be my daughter. Stop sympathizing with other tribes. I will do what I want. I am the queen. Horizon took a step back, away from the broken teacup, her eyes widened with sadness, her heart taking another load of pain. She should have known Imperial didn't love her. She was the queen with all sorts of power. Of course she wouldn't want a daughter who kept questioning her. She can't control her temper. Horizon ran out of the room. Surprisingly, the sadness and grief in her heart did harden to anger like a rock. Imperial was going to kill Peppered, a dragonette when the war started like her. He's misunderstood. I misjudged him based on what his tribe had done. Horizon wasn't going to place any blood on her talons. She turned to a window, looking at the sky. She tried to wipe away the tears that were running down her snout. She looked ridiculous, like a crying dragonette. I have to do what's right. They may have killed my father, but Pepper didn't. He wanted peace, and I slammed the door in his face. He deserves a chance. All the tribes do. What the SilkWings did were wrong. What Imperial did was wrong. Evil, even. Princess Horizon made up her mind. She ran to the guard's tower. It was nighttime. The sky was like a giant nightwing wrapping its wings around the world. The stars twinkled in the sky, and the moon shed silver light onto the Sky Palace and the Skywing prisoners. Everyone was asleep, trying to dream their thoughts away. Pepper was awake, looking at the stars, longing to be flying with them. I should have been nicer to Horizon, he thought sadly. I could have made everything better, but I let my Skywing temper and stubbornness get in the way. A shadow moved quickly at the edge of his vision. He looked down through the bars. It was late. SilkWings didn't like staying up late. Who could be out at midnight? A gray and blue SilkWing flew up to the Skywing prisoners. Pepper had recognized her tourmaline eyes. Horizon? He asked, watching her with slitted eyes. Come back to finish what you started? No, what are you doing? He thought angrily. Is this what a peaceful dragon would do? I mean, why are you here? Did you change your mind? He corrected himself and gave a short bow. I'm sorry, we don't have enough time, she whispered between the bars and pulled out a pair of keys behind her. Why? He gasped in awe as she flipped through the keys to open the gate cell. Queen Imperial is going to kill you at sunrise. Her voice shook with despair. A skywing had hatched. Oh, moons. His eyes widened with fear. He shouldn't have made himself a target. I asked for peace, then blew it right in front of her. Of course the queen would have heard. Don't you want me dead? I insulted you. He looked down at his claws, his heart beating faster and faster. Her voice croaked. You don't deserve to die. You tried to make peace, and I just threw it out. You didn't kill my father, and I was too blind to see what horrors my once peaceful tribe had done. I can't follow Imperial anymore. I'm going to free you. We can find a way to stop her and free everyone. Pepper's heart warmed at her confession. She isn't like Imperial. She's going to help free everyone. I don't know what to say, he stumbled as the door swung open. You're welcome? She gave a soft smile. Her scales glowed in the moonlight. She's risking her title and power just to save me. What about everyone else? He turned back to his snoozing family behind him. I can't leave them, he thought. Imperial could still kill them. I can't. They must already know the keys are gone. There's only one pair. We'll set them free. She touched Pepper with one of her wings. I promise. In the distance, there was a large shout. Oh no, Horizon widened her eyes. We need to leave. Now! And in a heartbeat, Horizon was leading Pepper through the sky. For the first time since the war, it was honestly the best. His wings still had golden chains, pulling him down a little, but Horizon pulled him upward with some silk she had. And through the night sky, the pair flew south toward the rainforest. Imperial never went there because of their laws not to harm trees, and everyone who went in there disappeared. Queen Imperial had not yet conquered the rain and sea kingdoms yet. Pepper watched as the palace grew further and further away. Him and Horizon would be back to stop Queen Imperial, back to save everyone, back to save the world. And that is part 1. I had written it a little longer when I wrote it in November, so I had to revise and edit it all. But it was so much fun to write and to draw in the drawings, so expect a part 2 when we get 100 subs. Thanks so much for 50 and have the best day.